In 2009, a young man's life was brutally taken in a quiet Oregon neighborhood. For over a decade, his murder remained unsolved. Then, in 2020, a breakthrough finally brought justice to his family and community.
Joseph Patrick Haley, 28, was found murdered in his Oak Grove apartment on March 20, 2009. His case went cold for years, leaving friends, family, and neighbors desperate for answers. Over a decade later, advances in forensic science and relentless detective work led to the arrests of 2 suspects, bringing closure to a painful chapter and shining a light on perseverance in solving cold cases. Joseph Haley lived a quiet life in Oak Grove, a small suburban town just south of Portland, Oregon. At 28, he had established himself as a friendly, hard-working man, employed at a local warehouse. He was well-liked by neighbors, a familiar face in community events, and known for helping friends and family with minor repairs or errands. On the morning of March 20, 2009, Joseph's roommates were surprised when 2 men arrived at the apartment and forced their way inside. Within seconds, Joseph was shot in the living room. His roommates called 911, but it was too late. He was dead. The attackers fled, leaving behind no fingerprints or personal items. The Oak Grove neighborhood was rocked by the violence. Families who once left doors unlocked began installing security systems. News outlets covered the story extensively, but despite witness statements and some circumstantial leads, the investigation stalled. Police found no murder weapon, no surveillance footage, and no credible suspects. Joseph's parents, Susan and Frank Haley, were devastated. For years, they maintained vigils and posted flyers, hoping someone would come forward. They stayed in touch with investigators, providing background information and following any potential leads. Neighbors remembered Joseph's laughter echoing through the complex, now replaced by a silence heavy with grief and unanswered questions.
The investigation quickly ran into challenges. The apartment complex had no security cameras, and the assailants had left almost no evidence. Witnesses were scarce. Joseph's roommates were traumatized and had difficulty remembering exact details. Initial leads pointed to minor acquaintances, but they all had solid alibis. Over the next decade, the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office periodically revisited the case, but funding and manpower limitations slowed progress. Joseph's family faced an agonizing mixture of hope and despair. Community members occasionally came forward with tips, but most proved to be dead ends. Advancements in forensic technology during the 2010s offered new avenues. Items from the original crime scene were preserved, including a blood-stained knife, clothing fibers, and traces of DNA overlooked in 2009. Detectives realized that modern DNA analysis could now provide answers where traditional methods had failed. In the meantime, Joseph's parents sought emotional support. They joined local support groups for families of homicide victims, keeping Joseph's memory alive through anniversaries, social media posts, and community outreach. These efforts kept public attention on the case and encouraged investigators not to give up.
In 2018, a new cold case unit took over the investigation, led by Detective Elena Ramirez, known for her expertise in analyzing unsolved homicides. The team began by re-examining the original evidence. Items were sent to advanced forensic labs to identify previously undetected DNA profiles. Their persistence paid off. DNA recovered from a blood-stained knife and a doorknob matched a profile in the National CODIS database. Kevin Schwartz, a local resident, and his associate, George Robbins. Both men had criminal records, though minor, which had not raised suspicion during the initial investigation. Detectives cross-checked neighborhood accounts and found that Schwartz and Robbins were in the vicinity of the apartment complex on the morning of the murder. Surveillance footage from nearby businesses confirmed their presence. The evidence painted a grim but clear picture. A botched robbery had escalated to murder.
Once Schwartz and Robbins were identified, the case intensified. Detectives tracked their movements, interviewed associates, and gathered additional evidence. Witnesses recalled suspicious behavior on the morning of the murder and confirmed that the suspects had a history of petty crime. But no one suspected they would commit such a violent act. The forensic team reanalyzed trace evidence from the crime scene. Fibers, blood, and other residues were compared to Schwartz and Robbins. Investigators reconstructed the crime timeline. The assailants had likely planned a robbery but became violent when confronted by Joseph. Community reaction was mixed. Neighbors who remembered Schwartz and Robbins as polite and helpful struggled to reconcile that image with the evidence. Some former colleagues expressed shock, recalling interactions that now seemed sinister in hindsight.
During pre-trial preparations, defense attorneys attempted to cast doubt on the DNA evidence, claiming contamination. However, the meticulous chain of custody documentation and modern lab protocols validated the evidence. Unexpectedly, a witness surfaced, claiming to have seen Schwartz and Robbins behaving suspiciously near the complex on March 20, 2009. This testimony aligned perfectly with the forensic reconstruction and strengthened the prosecution's case.
In the courtroom, emotion ran high. Joseph's family testified, describing the impact of the crime and the decade-long wait for justice. Schwartz was sentenced to life without parole. Robbins received 25 years. The verdict marked the end of a long, painful chapter.
Joseph's parents established a scholarship in his honor. Oak Grove residents found renewed peace, and the case became a study in persistence, modern forensic science, and community support.
If you have information on unsolved cases, contact local authorities. Every tip can help bring closure. Subscribe to the channel to follow more real-life investigations and support justice for victims.
Whispers in the dark. Whispers in the dark. Shadows in my mind. But I was just waiting.